Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am here, blessed and honored to be here with Jeremy Berthoux, Home Conseil Relocation out of France. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm very good, Ben, and 10 out of 10 on the pronunciation. You're the
I'm
first
really
American
trying.
person that ever said the whole thing right.
The whole time I'm trying out here. I'm trying. Okay. That's all, literally all the French I know. But no, it's so good to have you here. It's been too long. The last time I think we were hanging out was maybe in Sevilla in
Yeah,
beautiful Spain.
yeah,
Oh,
it's true.
that was
It's been a
gorgeous.
while, and thank you very much for having me, Ben. It's a
Oh, it's
pleasure
wonderful.
to finally be the guest after watching so many of your shows.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for making the time. It's wonderful to have you, and it's great to have everyone out there who's watching right now at home, uh, at at, at the job, on your commute, maybe depending on where in the world you are. Check in with us. I want to see you in the comments. Put your name in there. Let us know what company you're with. Hit that like button. We got people checking in here from all over the world. Now, Jeremy, where in France are you right now, sir?
Well, I'm not in Paris. I'm in Lyon at home, where I live and where I grew up and where I run my company, Home Conseil, as you said.
Nice, Lyon. Now help us French challenged people understand where Lyon is.
All right, so picture France. It's basically a hexagon. It's right in the middle, a little bit to the east. So you've got Paris up top, Marseille in the south, where all the beaches are, and Lyon, which is halfway. It's very close to the mountains, the Alps, but it's a 2 hour train ride to Paris, 2 hour drive to anywhere you want to go to ski, and yeah, 3 hour drive to the beach. So it's for me the perfect location.
In the middle of it all. I love it.
Yeah.
Hit that like button, everybody. Get in the comments. I want to know if you've been to France. Where have you been? What is your favorite part of France? I'm very curious. I've never been to France, Jeremy. So I'm gonna need to know where to go. Let's check in with whoever's in the comments here. Let us know about France if you know about France. Drew Phillips. Oh, snap. Here we go. Love and Reload at lunch. I'm glad to hear you made it off the BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit, Drew. Thank you for joining us today. Jason Hall checking in from USI Law. Kind of has a little ring to it, Jason. It's good to see you, buddy. Jana Chezanaski from Brazil is here.
Hey, Jenna.
Awesome to have you, Jeremy. Yeah, Jana and I both were in Sevilla.
Yeah.
We were hanging out with Jeremy. That was so much fun, too, at EuRA.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And
so
that
wonderful.
party you threw was legendary.
Yeah, we'll get into the parties. I mean, that party was kind of legendary. Not gonna lie. We
Oh yeah.
should fill people in case they didn't get a chance to be there on that. We'll tell people all about it. Adam Sotelo, super producer Adam, checking in. What's up, Adam? Over here doing tons of video projects for everybody in the industry. The best video guy in the business. Drew Phillips, you know, it's Reload Direct from the San Francisco Bay Area. Can't wait to see you out there at BAM. Drew, Aaron Venable
Hey, from France.
from France. What does she
Bonsoir.
say? What does she say here?
Oh, she's saying she's in the Savoy region, so it's really close to me. Yeah, probably a 2 hour drive.
Love it. She's got more French for us, so please let us know what she's saying here as well,
Oh yeah,
Jeremy.
she's coming from the same region as me.
Beautiful. Aaron, how do you
Bonjour,
like
Lynn.
France? I'm very curious. She relocated, I think,
Yeah, I think
recently
so.
over there. This Jillian says Normandy. I went in
Uh,
2016 and absolutely loved it.
yeah, so much more up north, but beautiful beaches there as well. The the World War II beaches were there, and it's a beautiful region as well.
My grandfather actually landed on, I think it was Normandy or was it
Yeah,
Omaha Beach the day
Omaha. Yeah.
after D-Day. He landed
Okay.
there in World War II.
Oh,
He was fortunate to have missed the heavy fire that the
yeah.
troops took when they first landed, but we're very proud of his service. So very cool. Aaron saying "Viva la France."
Yeah.
Good. And we got people checking in. Sheridan saying, "I've been to Paris. I live in New York." Cool. And Jana's saying, I celebrated my 34th birthday in Paris and it was magical.
I'm sure it was.
Look at this. May checking in from
Hey,
Cultural
May.
Awareness International.
Oh yeah.
Travis checking in from Cincinnati, Ohio. We're just going to pretend that's how you say it. Drew Phillips, Paris, Normandy, La Rochelle, Bordeaux. Drew,
yeah.
which was your favorite? All right, Jeremy, I need to know, if I visit France, I can only go to one place besides dinner at your home in Lyon. Where should I go, Jeremy?
One place. Well, Paris is too obvious, so I think you should go to somewhere else. So I would recommend Mont Saint Michel, which is either in the Normandy region or the Brittany region. There's a very heated debate on whether it is in this region or that region. So
how do we not know? In 2023, we could use satellites from space to zoom in on our front yard. How do we not know what region this is?
It's a turf war, you know, because the Mont Saint Michel is like a big rock where there was first a monastery that was built 1,000 years ago, actually. And it's very beautiful. It sits in a big bay where there are tides, very high tides that come in and out, and it's really it's an awesome sight to see. So that's where I would recommend you go if you have one place to visit.
Wow,
because obviously
cool.
everybody's gonna say Paris. So
everybody's gonna say
let's
Paris.
change it up.
Is Paris overrated? I know we usually say overrated, underrated for the end of the show, but we're gonna do this right now because we're talking about it right now. Overrated, underrated. Jeremy Berthoux, Paris.
Definitely overrated, but that's the Lyonnais speaking. I've actually lived in both cities, but with very different conditions. I was very much still a student when I lived in Paris in my 11 square meters, so that's probably like 35 square feet apartment, where my bed sat atop the rest of the apartment. Still very fond of that period, but it's a city where it's good to go as a tourist. It's less good to live as I would say a middle class person. If you're up top in the high altitude, you're
Right.
good. It's gonna be an awesome city, but for the most people, it's gonna be at least from my perspective a bit overrated.
You know, it's funny you say. I mean, a lot of people say the same thing about New York. They say it's great to visit, wouldn't want to live there in New York City, right?
Yeah.
And the quality of life and everything that you get in exchange for for what you pay and everything. And you're actually a DSP. I mean, tell me a little bit about your business. I want to
Yeah.
hear about your business.
Okay, so yeah, I do DSP as well as immigration into France. I've joined the industry some 10 years ago after being a lawyer and other stuff. So I really kind of stumbled into the industry. It's kind of a funny story because my mother actually founded the company I now run, but I never destined myself to taking over the company. So I was in between jobs. She had a topic that I was an expert in, commercial law contracts. So I jumped in for a short 3 months mission to help her out. I got my pinky into it, and then the whole arm went into
Just
it, and now
swallowed you.
I'm swallowed up whole.
Let me ask you though. So you went to law school to become
Yeah,
a lawyer.
yeah.
What kind of law? Where did you see yourself ending up?
Well, studying, I saw myself as a criminal lawyer. Probably it was a bit of a romantic idea, and I soon realized I either didn't have the guts or didn't have what it takes to become that. So I kind of branched away from it into more commercial matters. I did a stint in a business school as well before jumping into well real work the real world of real work
Right.
and yeah I practiced actually in I'm allowed to say company names so
Sure.
at GE in France assisting the sourcing department with their legal needs. So I was working on contracts actually under a US lawyer, and that was an experience that proves really helpful as now a DSP, as a provider. So now I look at the 120 pages contract that we get sent as DSPs or immigration providers by firms and RMCs, and I'm not scared because I was on the other end of it.
Okay,
So
you've seen both sides of this. You've
yeah,
written these contracts, you've received these contracts.
yeah.
Are these service contracts too long, Jeremy?
Oh, very much too long, but I can assure you that every clause has a meaning first, and then probably a funny story behind it. When there is I don't know, some kind of fine for the DSP for not turning in their work on time or for divulging personal information. Probably the story isn't that fun, but there's a story there, and that's why there's this clause. So it's too long, but there's a reason for it.
You know, it's funny. I was just reading an 11-page lease agreement yesterday, and I'm thinking to myself halfway through, like, somebody was getting paid by the hour to write this. And then my next thought was, yeah, but they probably just took one that they already had and changed the names on it and then charged them 5 hours anyway.
Exactly. Why
And then I'm
reinvent the
thinking
wheel?
somebody got paid to write this thing, but nobody's paying me to read it.
Well,
Y-
if you're a DSP, your clients are paying you to read it.
So I'm in the wrong business. I should be in the DSP business. I should be Glomo's DSP. So when I get a contract, I'm getting paid to read it. So tell me about the DSP business. How in the world does that relate to the law? How did you get from one to the other?
Well, you've just pointed it out. I mean, being able to understand the lease is very important, and being able to understand the law that stands behind the lease is equally important. In France, we have a very specific framework for leases. It's very protective of tenants, which leads to kind of a difficult situations actually for expats coming in, because it's very hard to get in. Because once you're into a lease as a tenant, you're very much protected. In France, you can't be evicted during a winter truce period, for example. So it's very, very difficult for landlords to evict a tenant that doesn't pay rent, for example. So it's really good to have studied law to be able to understand the rationale behind every clause of a lease in order to negotiate it better. And just another example I got today. Actually, one of my clients had a departure assistance that we carried out a couple of months ago. The state of the apartment was actually, it's a house, was actually better upon departing than from entering the property. And now the landlord is trying to retain most of the security deposits. So we're going to fight it. And knowing the law that enables us to fight it is going to be very helpful. I've helped countless clients do that. So in that sense, I can find a bit of the raison d'être of being a lawyer that I had in the first place, which was defending the small guy against the big guy. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what we do when we assist people that don't speak French and have to agree to an 11-page lease agreement in French.
You know, that's a great point, right? Because I speak English. This was written in English, and I felt like I didn't understand half of it. So I can't imagine how an expat who speaks, maybe level 2, French or something like that is gonna come in and decipher some legalese.
Mhm.
It makes a lot of sense when you say it that way. What are some of the legal aspects that expats really maybe need to understand, or most commonly maybe misunderstand or don't understand or aren't aware of when they come over to France?
Mm. So the one big thing I would say is healthcare. That's something that's relatively new. The company I run is more than 30 years old now, but we've been big on French social security registrations for, I would say, 6, 7 years now. And so people coming in have kind of a preconception that this is France. There is a socialized healthcare system. I'm gonna arrive, show up at the doctors, and gonna be all good.
That's
But
what
it's
I would
actually,
think. I would think that
yeah,
I could just walk. The way that's set over here is like you could just walk into any
yeah.
clinic or doctor or whatever and just say, "I'm here. This hurts. Fix me."
Yeah. You can actually do that in France, but if you don't register and go through the proper channels, it's going to cost you more. Whereas if you do the things in the way they are supposed to be done, you're going to be paying essentially zero, which is a big plus of living in
Yeah.
France, and a big draw. So that's usually one of the misconceptions that they have coming in. And not wanting to sound anti-American, it's usually the American people that come in and say, "Hey, we don't have that home, so let's let's find out about the French healthcare system." In other countries where it is more developed, they have less of a cultural shock on that, and yeah, it's really something that needs taken care of in order to be smooth.
If it's going to cost zero, why do I have to register first?
Well, because the thing is, it's going to cost zero because as an employee in France, you're actually paying for it, and your employer is actually paying for it. So as you are paying for it and your employer is paying for it, you have a right and an obligation to register. You have a right to register and a right to benefit from the services, the healthcare services, and you have an obligation to do it. And actually, your employer has an obligation to do it because, well, is paying you and is retaining part of your salary to pay for your medical expenses down the line.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, man. I'll tell you what, the United States healthcare system is very screwed up. It costs, our employers pay a majority of
Mhm.
our healthcare, and yet we're still surprised by the cost of services or emergency services or surgeries, things of that nature. And then what is covered and what is not covered from a, prescription medicine
Mhm.
or procedures is frankly oftentimes a surprise until we know that we need those things. And not a little surprise. I mean, a lot of them were little surprises, but the ones that amount into thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, or in some rare cases where you need like life-saving surgery and it costs you $100,000. I mean, it can bankrupt a person.
Yeah.
And so they have to decide between having a saving or life altering surgery and their financial health,
Yeah.
and burdening their family sometimes with debts. So our system is it's really unfortunate. We take a lot of pride in this country, as people know. But that's one thing about the United States that is it's it's uh it's really discouraging. So when I talk to other people in other countries about their healthcare system, it's refreshing to know that once I register. Now, the registration process, I mean, is it fairly straightforward and easy, or is it like a lot of hoops to jump through, as we say?
Yeah, lots of hoops. France is actually very well known for its red tape aspect, and the French Social Security Administration is one of the oldest and the most archaic of our administrations. To give you some insight into the registration process, part of it still happens only through postal mail. So
Wow.
the first step of the process is to find a home because you have to have a permanent address. You can't do that from your hotel room. You have to find a home and find a permanent address, and then you can start the process because at some point in the process, you're going to receive a letter with some credentials that you have to log into. Thank God, into a website. Then everything goes to a simple card and a website. But there is some point where they have to pinpoint you with a postal address. So that's really in 2023 kind of inconceivable, but still, it's I would say.
Right. Now, what's interesting to me, though, now you have an expat, an assignee who's in France, right? And you say a permanent address, so it can't be a hotel, but can it be like a 60-day corporate housing situation? Would
So
would
that's
they would they know even how permanent does it have to
yeah.
be?
You have to be able to receive mail to it. So it could be a 60-day, well, not a 60-day temp housing wouldn't work because the process takes up to 3 months. So it's gonna be at least 90 days. But as long as you can receive mail and you have your name on a letterbox or some sort in the temp housing building, that could work. But it seldom does. So,
I wonder if, we see average temp housing, and I see Oliver checking in here. Oliver Dubester is an expert in this kind of stuff here from a policy
Oliver.
and benefit standpoint. He says, "Hey guys, sorry I'm late. Great to see you, Jeremy. And you too, Ben." Thanks, Oliver. Appreciate the also ran. No, good to see you, Oliver, and hope your Broncos do well this year. Aaron Venable says, "Tons of hoops." No, let me rephrase. She says,
Oh yeah.
"Tons of hoops." French bureaucracy is so complicated. It's really hard to do everything on your own. Having an advocate, and in this case, an avocat, French word for lawyer, is such an advantage. Aaron, there's a lot of passion there. Aaron, was your process particularly onerous? Aaron, I'd like to hear about your process and your story. But I was going to ask the question, maybe of Oliver or anybody else that's watching that understands, or maybe Drew or anybody out there that's watching that maybe understands this. We see corporate housing and service departments, average maybe 45 days here in the States. And I'm wondering if they're longer for expats because they need that 90-day minimum in order to register for things like healthcare. And I know there's other immigration things too that sometimes require these addresses. So do you know of that, Jeremy? I mean, do you see longer minimum stints because of some of the other bureaucratic requirements?
There is a very similar requirement for immigration purposes. In order to secure your residence permit in France, you also have to have a permanent address, in which case it is sure that it doesn't work with temp housing. So in that case, having a much longer period would be an encumbrance rather than a help. From my experience, the average length I see in France for temp housing is 60 days. That's the usual, but that may be a little bit skewed by the client portfolio that we have.
I'm sorry, did you say 20 days?
No, 60.
Oh, 60 days, so 2 months.
Yeah, 60 days. 60 days would be the average we usually encounter. For both processes, it's better to have your permanent residence sourced, because for these you're not only need to receive mail, but you also need to declare an address. So in that sense, the permanent address is really needed, and a corporate housing solution wouldn't be, or an Airbnb wouldn't be a solution.
So to the contrary, au contraire, mon frère. Basically, you want a shorter stint in temporary housing than a longer stint. Okay.
Yeah.
This is fun. I'm speaking French today, everyone. So tune in. This will be one of the last times you hear me. Retta says, "Salut, Ben et Jeremy. Bon vent de Charlotte." I'm trying.
You actually have a pretty good accent.
Okay, I'm trying. Thank you, Jeremy. It means a lot. I'm really vulnerable right now. Aaron saying, let's just say hashtag the struggle is real. That's great. We got a couple more comments here. Travis is saying in America, you need to create an irrevocable trust for all assets that can't be touched by creditors, medical bills, divorce, to ensure all assets are protected. Went through this 2 years ago. Interesting. Huh. Oliver has a question. Yes, bring these questions. Put them in the comments. I want questions for Jeremy about the law, about immigration, about DSP work, about France, about soccer, whatever. Oliver says, "What impact is the 2024 Olympics having on the relocation industry for those that are moving into France and Paris?" I'm sure that will have an impact on the temp living situation that Ben is alluding to. Thank you, Oliver, for making sense of my nonsense. Jeremy, are you seeing impacts yet from the Olympics?
So we haven't seen much impact yet on the Olympics, because there has been minimal construction work in Paris. Most of the sites for the Olympic Games were already constructed. There are some in the 18th district that are being built as we speak. but most of the infrastructure is already there. So the impact will largely be in 2024 and mostly in the summer for the Olympic period. The impact that we can already foresee will be highest on the temp living situation. That's for sure. We can already see hotel rates rising up 400%, 500%, 600%. Yeah, they're gonna price gorge basically for the Olympic period. So the availabilities that our temp housing partners already tell us about in Paris for that period are down 80%. So there's at this stage already 80% of their capacity that is reserved for the Olympic period. So that will have in chain an impact on the, I would say, other type of DSP work, which is, well, obviously house hunting, which will be much more difficult during the Olympic period. So stay clear if you're sending people into France and especially Paris in the summer of 2024. Stay clear between, I would say, June and September, which is usually the peak period.
Yeah, that's like
Because
the
it's gonna
peak
be,
season. That's
yeah,
when
yeah.
people are
So
going
you can
there, right?
either send people before or after. That's an option. And if you can't do that, I would say source a DSP that can do virtual visits. Because if you try to send somebody on a reconnaissance tour for a week in, let's say, the 25th of July 2024, which is the day before the Olympics start, it's going to be a nightmare for them to find housing. So they might have to like find a housing solution 1 hour away by train of Paris. So they'd better be Orléans or in, I don't know, Lille, somewhere else where there are less people coming in. It's going to be a nightmare otherwise. And the impact on permanent housing is less known yet, but my little finger tells me that there are many landlords that will just not put their property on the market for normal lease and put them on Airbnb and other type of stuff during the Olympic period because they're going to make a fortune out of it.
Is price gouging illegal in France, or is there any kind of recourse or protections afforded under the law when it comes to price gouging for things like this?
There is, but there is, and there might be a recourse that well, helps people that are victim of it, but it's not going to be of any help to find a place to stay or to to find a permanent house during that period. So it's going to be it's going to be hard for that couple of months of the Olympics.
Are you forecasting for next year? I mean, is the relocation industry in Paris, which I know, I mean, Paris is a major destination within France, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, is this going to impact relocation for France in the most important time of year next year? Like, I mean, this might have like a material impact for the entire quarter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The impact will be there. That's for sure. Hopefully, our clients will heed our warnings and try to steer away from the period. But obviously, that's also the period where it's most convenient because that's where you want to go there with your kids in order to make sure that you find a good school for them and be ready for back to school, which is actually next Monday in France, so beginning of September, probably the same as the US. And yeah, it's gonna be hard, but we can also be adaptive. I mean, if it comes down to doing virtual visits, we've done that during COVID. We've managed it with much stricter restrictions. So perhaps it's going to be a couple of months where assignees don't come for a pre-assignment trip. They just stay home, watch beautiful videos or live streams of us, making them visit apartments and all in Paris, and then they come in once they have a lease. Because, well, if they have a lease, no problem.
So they're going to make you do all the work. You're going to have to battle all the traffic and 2 hours to get to the apartment showing and everything, exactly. And let them sit at home and just oh, let's watch Jeremy try to he's like sweating and like, oh, I just got here. I just walked up, five-story walk up over here in downtown Paris. And yeah, that's great. Don't you have your clients shown a history of heating warnings? I feel like we've been trying to get clients to move in the spring and the fall for the over a decade that I've been working in this business, and this has been the only summer they haven't moved in the summer en masse. And I have a feeling it's all going to get pent up for next year when the economy rebounds. So you might have your hands full next summer, Jeremy.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's for sure. I love my clients, so I won't respond to the original question.
We call that taking the fifth here in the
Yeah,
United States. You don't want to
yeah,
incriminate yourself. That's
yeah.
that's good. Very smart. Very smart. Retta saying moving to France in 2024 might nearly cost as much as moving to the UK in 2023. Retta's funny. That's
Yeah.
great. That's wonderful. What are you seeing right now in terms of volumes right now moving in France as we sit here in at the end of what would typically be considered the peak season for relocation? What are you seeing volumes looking like right now?
Volumes are holding up better than I expected. From a very personal perspective, 2022 was the best year in the company's history, so it might not be the best reference point. But 2023, I anticipated would be a little bit less fruitful. We were kind of shielded from the rise in energy prices in France because the government put on an energy shield that kept energy prices relatively low compared to the rest of the European countries in 2022. But in 2023, I anticipated actually lower volumes than what we see, and they are kind of similar as what we had in 2022. So it's been a good peak season and a good year overall so far. Even though there are some sectors, mainly tech, that are kind of lacking, and we're anticipating and eagerly waiting for their assignees to come back. But I hear that it could be happening by the end of the year. So at the end of the day, it's probably going to be a good year again. So yeah, good volumes, at least from our perspective. Obviously, I'm representing only our company. I can't really attest to the rest of our to the rest of
Right.
our industry.
Well, and that's kind of the thing too. I mean, your company is obviously on the upswing. You're extremely active in the community. We'll talk about your participation with EuRA and all the things you're doing. So, I mean, a lot of this is a product of your activity in the marketplace, and kind of the fact that y'all are kind of on the upswing, and maybe aren't as representative of the general market because of the individual micro activities that y'all are doing, right? But
Mhm.
um and I think the other thing to consider too when asking this question and people's answers, the context is, you talk about tech, and there's certain sectors that are more exposed to the economic hardships that we're seeing, right? Tech is definitely one of them. The finance sector is another one of them. We see in this country, at least real estate is heavily exposed,
Mhm.
which ironically, a lot of relocation management companies are heavily exposed in real estate as well, corporate housing, et cetera. So I think it also depends probably on the makeup of your business and what your business mix is like. How what I'll say last year. Let's assume last year probably wasn't normal either, but let's just take last year for an example.
Mhm.
What percentage of your clients are in the technology sector compared to maybe some other sectors?
I would say last year already it was down compared to the pre-COVID years. But the most that we had in the tech basket, so to speak, was around 20% of our portfolio.
Wow.
So it's still a big portion. Some big tech companies were our biggest clients for many years. Thankfully, we recognized that we needed to diversify a little bit, and we went into other sectors that actually benefited from the COVID crisis, luxury, finance at the time. Obviously now it's less good, but thanks to Brexit, we've been benefiting from finance assignees coming into France because they had to leave the UK to keep working within the EU zone. So yeah, definitely diversifying was a good move. And to your previous comment, Ben, I'm not that sure that our position right now is solely the result of my jittering and moving around and doing stuff. I mean, I do it, and I'm glad to do it, but I think really the position the company is in today is the product rather of 30 years of experience and really high quality work. That's always been the motto of my mother who founded the company, and I ran with it. So perhaps I managed to develop it a little bit better, but I'm definitely benefiting from all these years of happy assignees, happy HR people coming in, and word of mouth is actually the way we do most of our commercial developments. I'm merely a signpost, but I don't want to be hiding the forest behind me.
Well, a signpost only works if people can see it. And I tell you what, Jeremy, you get out there and you're very active, and so it's probably a combination of great product and great marketing. So give yourself some credit there. But shout out to mom too if you're watching out there,
Oh, yeah.
your family and everybody out there. I'm sure it's a great product as well. And when we talk about the tech blend, I mean the immigration space, is another one that's heavily exposed to technology, at least in the United States. I don't know about overseas, because I mean we're always getting talent from Asia and other countries and stuff to kind of support the technology growth. So it's very interesting when you say 20% maybe was tech clients. That does sound highly diversified for an immigration firm. So kudos to you and your team for doing that.
Thanks.
Question: you mentioned Brexit, and I want to talk about it. Obviously Brexit is kind of old news in a way, but I want to kind of take a retrospective look back to say, what was the impact there, or what continues perhaps to be the impact, and can you describe that for us, maybe who are outside the region?
Yeah. So I would say on a very broad scale, from my perspective, Brexit is a tragedy for the UK. It's like shooting yourself in the foot, if not worse. It's really one of the worst decisions that could be made, but it's the people's decision, so that's democracy. You have to respect it. However, I would say untruthful the political campaign that led to it was. From a French perspective, it was a windfall. I mean, we had floors of investment banks pouring out into Paris. I'm pretty sure the same happened in Frankfurt in Germany, because the investment banks clients were all over Europe, but they were not in Europe anymore, so they couldn't do business with them out of London. So they had to move in a rush, because the whole political process after the vote that led to how Brexit panned out was so messy, both internally in the UK and both in the relationship with the EU. It was postponed like 3 or 4 times, and the conditions changed all the way. And then this type of uncertainty is that's for sure very bad for business. And beyond that uncertainty, now the UK faces shortages in workers because of strict immigration regulations that doesn't enable them to recruit the lorry drivers, truck drivers that they need, or plumbers or anything like that. So really, at the end of the day, I think it's the best the best case that you can make for the EU for having a more global presence, a more global entity than just simply your small country. It would be like having, I don't know, Illinois jumping out of the union and
Right.
going,
Or Texas, yeah,
or Texas, something like that. So it would be a catastrophe for that particular state, and it's a catastrophe for that particular state. But the silver lining is now other countries are less inclined to do it. We had political leaders in France crying for Brexit, the exit of France from the EU, and now they are less vocal about it because it's such a sham.
Yeah, interesting. And we've got a question here from Retta here. Great question. He says, what motivated these businesses to move to Paris versus, say, Dublin?
So that's a very good question, and there are a
Food?
couple of factors, and they're all relocation related. So that's really the right place to ask that question. Um, Availability in terms of housing that fit the needs of those investment bankers, because you're not gonna move from London to the middle of nowhere. You're gonna have to find a big city that's vibrant and where you can find the kind of way of life that you've been used to in London. So that's why big mainland European cities were considered. Obviously, Dublin is a great city. I was there for the last EuRA conference in April. It was great, but it's less of a prime city in the world stage, I would say. So beyond housing, there is international schooling capabilities as well, and that was a very big thing. On which the French government actually acted for once, and they actually worked towards opening many international schools. I think 3 or 4 were opened, whereas essentially not doubling, but adding 50% capacity for children wanting to learn in English, German, or whatever language, and that was a very big draw for families, because obviously those traders or those investment bankers, they have families like you and I, and they wanted to find the same kind of way of life that they had to leave. And yeah, so the infrastructure, I would say in general, was the big motivation for businesses to move to those countries rather than I would say more fiscally attractive countries such as Ireland.
It's really good. It's a really good explanation. Very thorough. Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, it would be daunting, as an English only speaker, it would be daunting to move to a country where English isn't the first language. How welcoming is, let's just say Paris for now, how welcoming is Paris to English speakers?
Well, let's say the French are not the best English speakers in the world, but Paris is a very touristic city. So all in all, I think it's quite welcoming still, especially if you're in the upper middle class or above. You're probably gonna end up in either Paris or its good suburbs, which are usually the western side of Paris. So you'll find many expats there. It's a very um, multicultural city. All in all, you're probably not going to be able to order a baguette in English, fully in English, but you're going to run into English speaking people in the street, in the metro, in a shop. You're going to be fine.
Is there a language requirement to immigrate to
No,
France or to,
no, no.
no? Okay. See, no, I get that. I get that. I can understand.
No.
Um, very cool. Hey, real quick here, because I just want to point out the fact that you're also an executive board member at EuRA, and that's where we first met in Seville. Where yes, we did throw an epic party at that club. It was a banger.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Thanks for being there.
Oh, thanks for organizing it.
Dude, can I just tell you for a second? Like that club was like the first night we were there, we like went out and then we just like stumbled upon this place and we were there until I don't know, it closed like 2:30 in the morning, let's just say. Um, like the first night, right? We were like, yo, this is great. And Jana went up to, we were like, oh, we should have a party here. And Jana went up to the manager and was like, can we have a party here? He's like, yeah, we'll talk about it. I'll call you in the morning or whatever. Right. So I give him my number. I'm sitting in a morning meeting at the cafe and having a meeting with an RMC and we're like doing some business and just like it's like 10:30 in the morning. I probably just like had woken up not too long ago. And I get this phone call from this Spanish phone number on my WhatsApp, and I'm like, oh, what is this? Like, I mean, I probably should take it. I mean, it's not a coincidence. I'm in Spain, right? So I take it, and like, oh, it's it's so and so from the club. I'm like, who did I give my phone number to last night at the club? He's like, yeah, you wanted to throw a party, right? I'm like, oh yeah, hold on a second. I walk away from the meeting. I'm like, yeah, what would it entail? Whatever. Anyway, long story short is they wanted like a whole bunch of money to reserve it and make it, for us, whatever only. But they ended up just printing some bracelets for us and saying, and I basically said, anybody wearing this bracelet, I'll pay their bar tab. And we just gave them out. And the buses were kind enough to give people an option to drop them off at the club after the big dinner, and we ended up having, I don't know, 150 people maybe come by and just have a great time. And it wasn't that, I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't that expensive for what it was. I mean, we probably went from 10:45 at night till I'm kind of embarrassed to say probably how late we went, but it was a lovely evening. It was like an outdoor kind of on the water kind of nightclub thing. And
on the bank of the river. Yeah, it was very nice. It was a great party, and hearing the story of how it went down is even better, because it really didn't feel like something that you threw last minute. It really felt like something that was planned.
yeah, it just kind of came together. Well, once you give people a Glomo bracelet and tell them to show up, and it was super easy, right? Because like I said, I'll just put my credit card on file. He would text me every like time it was like another €1,000. He would text me, and I was like, approved. Like keep it going. I think we did the whole thing for like maybe like €5,000 maybe for like everything. I don't know, €4,800, something like that, maybe, including tips and the gratuity and everything. And people still talk about it. So it was a lot of fun. So shout out to Jana, and thanks for reminding me of it. It was a good time. So,
Yeah.
but tell us about EuRA a little bit. Though you're on the
Yeah.
executive board, give it a plug.
All right. So yeah, I've been elected to the board. As you know, EuRA is an association. So we do have an executive board composed of 7 members. And there was this year was an election year. And I was elected this 1st of May. So I've been working with the board and the management team at EuRA for the past few months. Had my first in-person meeting with them. Obviously, I know them. All of them are from the industry, or I've seen them at conferences there. But we had the first few huddles online and in-person meetings, which were really, really great, really insightful for me to peek under the curtain and see what's going on behind the scenes of the association, because obviously the flagship product, so to speak, is the EuRA conference that they're known for. But there is much more work going behind the scenes. Obviously, there is a lot of work going into making the conference a success, choosing the right location, not divulging it, because we're bound to secrecy now.
So the executive committee knows where it's going to be, but nobody else knows. That's the thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Probably one or two DSP of the country in question know, because you always run into people, or you can leverage the help of the local community when you're setting up such a big event. But yeah, we're the only ones to know. And
let me ask you this, Jeremy.
Yes.
How is the location selected?
So it's an array of factors. We actually discussed not the next one. The next one is known. It's going to be Vila Moura in Portugal in 2024, but we're discussing the 2025 location. I'm actually flying out there in a couple of months, and the discussion is a couple of factors. But on this specific one, one of the big factors is that Dublin was such a success. Seville was postponed 2 times because of COVID, and the registrations were closed for, let's say, 2.5 years, because everybody had registered in 2019 for 2020, and then the registrations were carried over. So Dublin 2023 was the first not free, but open conference after COVID. And it was the biggest EuRA conference ever. It pales in comparison with the numbers of ERC, of the Global Workforce Symposium, but there were 700 delegates in Dublin, which
Wow.
is like 25% more than the biggest one before that. And based on that factor alone, we had to rediscuss the locations because, well, the targets that we had in terms of hotels and venues were for 500 people, not 700. So you have
Right.
to move around those. The location is important. How easy it is to access by plane for everyone, not only European people, because there are more and more people like you, Ben, coming from all over the world to this conference. It's becoming truly global. So there's a lot of care put into how easy it is to get into this specific country or location. Back in 2016, we had the conference in Dubrovnik, Croatia, which was, well, basically overlooking the sea, which was beautiful. A little bit less easy to go to, but that's a sacrifice the association was willing to make for the sunny, the sun and the sea, basically. So those are the criteria. Usually, the conference goes north, south, north, south, so it's easy for people in Europe to come in. And yeah, those are the main factors that are put into account.
Well, you've given us enough information, Jeremy, that people are already starting to make guesses here and draw conclusions. I hope that that Tad is not texting you, like putting you under a non-disclosure,
Definitely.
or he's putting a gag order right now out there.
Yeah, no, nothing,
Red is
nothing from
saying, so
that.
it's not going to be in Paris, you're saying.
Well, Reda, the only thing I'll say is now there's a French board member, so.
Ooh. Dun, dun, dun. Very interesting. Well, Red is saying I definitely need to go next time.
Oh,
Yeah, that's I missed last year in Dublin. I heard it was phenomenal. Definitely want to go. I encourage you to continue thinking big. That the appetite out there for the EuRA conference is voracious. Everyone loves it. The community is uh, very, very strong, very welcoming. It feels like a big hug when
oh
you're
yeah, it's a
there. So
family.
I thoroughly enjoyed my time in Sevilla, and I hope to make it to Portugal
Yeah.
next year. We'll see how it goes. We're running a little short on time, Jeremy. You seem like a fun guy. You want to have a little fun, Jeremy?
Yeah.
All right, you say that now. We'll see what happens. All right, let's get into it. Overrated, underrated. Do you know how to play the game, Jeremy Berthoux?
Oh, that yeah. You can go ahead.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. Number one, we did a little curveball. Number one, we got a new number one, Dublin. Overrated, underrated.
I would say underrated. The city was really good. Um, we had good weather. It like rained a couple of days out of it, but it was hotter than France at the same time. Um, the city was very much a pleasure. The only thing that's I would say overrated is the drinking in Ireland. The bars all closed down at 10, something like that. So it was
Yes.
yeah, it was really one of the quiet conferences.
You know
The
what? I
bars
mean,
were yeah
I've thought the same thing when I'm in the UK. I'm in London, and
yeah
they're, oh, we're such drinkers and this and
yeah
that, and all your pubs close at 10, 11 o'clock.
yeah. You have to start early. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, but they should warn you in advance because you don't realize that till day two, and you've already lost so much time. And it's just that's the one thing I liked about Spain. We went to Spain, and we'd find these places that were open till
Exactly.
anyway. Roger's saying Dublin rocks. Yeah, that's about
Oh,
all you can drink after
definitely, yeah.
10. Red is over here still guessing destinations. He says Monaco. Interesting, very fun. Dublin, I'll have to check it out. Number two, overrated, underrated. Lyon.
It's my hometown. Obviously, it's underrated. Um, I would say it's a small Paris, much more livable than Paris, much more human sized, and it's the nickname of Lyon is the belly of France. It's the city where you have most restaurants. The food is phenomenal. You should definitely visit Lyon. It's close
Oh,
to everything.
I'm intrigued.
So yeah, it's definitely underrated.
What is one thing I have to eat or taste when I'm in Lyon?
Um, the specialties are very um, um, most of them are an acquired taste because there is a lot of tripe, a lot of pig's feet and stuff like that. So if you're into that, um, you're gonna love it. But the one specialty I would say would be the andouillette, which is it's a sausage made out of the pig's intestines. Lots of stuff like that in it. You don't have to know what's in there, but it's delicious.
We don't need to know how the sausage is made to enjoy the
Exactly.
sausage. I do like that. It's an excellent illustration of that concept. Retta saying, I love Lyon, lived there a few years, a must. Retta, tell me, what should I eat when I go to Jeremy and visit Jeremy and enjoy myself in Lyon? Can't wait. All right, number 3, overrated, underrated. Investing in your people.
Definitely underrated
Overrated,
as
right?
well.
Oh, okay.
That's your biggest asset. Come on, man.
It's our biggest cost for sure, right? I mean,
It's the biggest cost, but it's the biggest
yeah,
asset. I mean,
yeah.
when people ask me what do I do, I always go to that Richard Branson quote. I take care of my people, and my people take care of my clients. I don't take care of my clients. Uh, that's not the way it works. So investing in your people, I mean, that's not doing it is the way to go down.
Super producer Adam chimes in and says, underrated. I'm a people.
There you go.
Yes, you are, Adam. You're my kind of people, Adam. Thank you for being a people here at Glomo. Appreciate you. Yeah, you're 100% right though, Jeremy. I mean, we can't do anything alone, right? A company is a collection of people working towards a common goal. And we would be nothing without our people. We'd just be solopreneurs, and that's a lot less fun. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I thought you were going to throw me a curveball maybe and say overrated, but let's see here. Sherry says, "Ben, your face regarding the food description."
It's better than it sounds, sir.
I'll try it. I'll try it. I mean, I'm sure it's lovely.
Oh yeah.
Very nice. Very nice, Sherry. You're hilarious. All right, next, overrated, underrated, commercial efforts.
Overrated. I mean, you gotta let the quality of your work do the talking. I'm always underselling it, over delivering. That's my motto basically. So yeah, as I said earlier, word of mouth is the prime way that we do our commercial endeavors. Um, we do very little in terms of actual efforts to go out to fetch clients, and it's usually the
All
other
right,
way
I'm
around.
going to ask you another question in a different
Yeah.
way then perhaps. Conferences, overrated or underrated?
Rated the right way.
Properly
No,
rated. He's torn.
it's underrated in terms of human connections. You get, I mean, I've seen it with my mother. Um, I actually got married this year, and there were a couple
Congrats.
of people that were there that she met at conferences that come from other parts of the world that are friends with her now, and it's very much the same for me. You find people you have a deep connection with in those conferences, and that's definitely an underrated part of the conferences. Um, Probably the overrated part is the the show off thing of the at the conference.
The big
Um,
crazy parties.
not the big crazy parties, but you know what I mean. The corporate jibber jabber, and that kind of stuff. That's probably a bit overrated, but it's part of the conferences. I mean, you have to put on the suit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's see. Overrated, underrated. Do we have another one? Instant gratification culture, overrated or underrated?
uh, Overrated, definitely. I mean, it's not a trend that I love in the world that we're living in. I mean, it should be we should be able to take a little bit more time to find our pleasure, find our gratification, and good things take a long time to be made. So yeah.
Like a fine French wine, perhaps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're like, drink it now here in the States. We don't care what it tastes like. Just drink it now. I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think there's studies and stuff that show. I'm just gonna make something up right now, but that show that like teaching kids to like delay gratification at an early age improves their performance later in life. And I see the opposite happening with my kids now. You know, they're just so like on their tablets. They want everything now. And they want to play their games now. And they want their muffins at 10 a.m. And it's like, you guys got to chill a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
But no, that's great. It's great stuff. Jeremy, this has been a lot of fun. I want to ask you, why don't you leave us with a final thought, something we should be thinking about?
Well, here's the final thought. How about a commitment from you, Ben, to come to Portugal for the next EuRA? And I'm not gonna ask for a commitment for a party, but if you do, we'll throw a party for you for once.
Well, I wouldn't go unless there's a party. I mean, Jeremy, it's just I need a mutual commitment here. I mean, you know what? I would very much like to be in Portugal. I love the EuRA community. I'm going to ask a commitment from you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I will come to Portugal for the EuRA conference if you guys will let me do Love and Relo live from EuRA.
Well, I can work towards that.
Okay. Well, I can work towards that as well. That sounds like a lot of fun. I would love to be in Portugal. Now I get to tell my wife that Jeremy's making me go. I don't even want to go. I just gotta get Jeremy made me do it. I don't even know.
I'll write you a note.
Please write me a note. That's what I need. I need a note. That's what I need right now. Jeremy Berthoux, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure having you on Love and Relo. Thanks everyone out there who came in, joined in, chimed in. Thanks for all the likes and the comments here. Hit that like button one more time. Send a little love out to France out there. Jeremy, thanks for being with us. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thanks, everyone.